I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Technologies, and we are here at the NETA, the International Electrical Testing Association, their 2023 Power Tech Conference, doing interviews. My guest with me is the Director of Communications for APC Media, Rachel Linke. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Alan. Would miss it.
We're just going to have an interesting time with all of these people, and tell me what you like best about these interviews.
The best part about these interviews, I feel like, is that it really brings about a lot of great thought leadership, and I really just love how you make everybody feel so comfortable, Alan. You really try to get people to just be comfortable and in their own skin, and then so much great information comes out of it. So
let's see if we made people in the next interview comfortable. Enjoy. My next guest is Bob Koonce. He is the president of the High Reliability Group. Bob, good to meet you.
Nice
He's
to
a
meet
man
you.
after my own heart in the fact that it's reliability, and you're going to explain why your reliability might be different than mine,
right.
But it's really not. But thank you for joining us. You are a speaker here, a keynote at NETA.
Yes,
tell me a little bit about your background. How'd you get into this?
Absolutely. So my background, a farm boy from central Illinois, lost our farm in the early 80s, tough times for a small farmer. Went off to university to study electrical engineering, and along the way I wanted to do something exciting, and the Navy got my attention, as recruiters tend to do.
From Illinois to the Navy.
Yeah, from the farm to the Navy, about as far away as I could get.
Yeah.
But I joined the submarine force and the nuclear submarine force. So I went through all the nuclear training. After I graduated from college, I was an officer in the Navy. And then I was stationed on board a submarine in Charleston, South Carolina in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and it was hard work, but I got to see the world, went all over the world. So,
did you ever meet Jack Nicklaus, not the golfer, but the guy that was part of fixing electrical systems on nuclear submarines?
I did not meet.
A brilliant man.
Yeah,
we've done an interview with him.
Okay.
I want to make sure we send you a copy of it because it's a story about the nuclear Navy and how some of the ships were sinking and they had to fix some things.
That's correct. Yeah.
He was one of the authors,
part of that.
and he is a reliability guy, nuclear reliability.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, so at the end of that first tour, I decided this is what I want to do. And so I stayed in the Navy until I was commanding officer of USS Key West, which was a Los Angeles class submarine out of Pearl Harbor. And then shortly after that, I decided to leave the Navy to pursue commercial stuff, do my own thing. And now I run a small consulting firm, and we focus on high reliability for systems and organizations.
Because high reliability for systems and organizations starts with leadership, right?
Yes, sir.
You got to have, if leaders don't get it, but I'm
Right.
even talking about the whole concept of leadership for reliability. Talk a little bit about your experience with that, or your philosophy.
Yeah, our philosophy. So we have a model. Basically, the foundation is actually the management system, is what we believe. Right. Organizational structure and management system kind of sets the foundation for organizations. The leadership's on top of that, and the leadership, you set your expectations in the management system. Here's what we expect our people to do, how we expect them to, approach their work, and that purpose of that is to make sure, especially for a large organization, you can't get everybody in the room at the same time. Right. So when you start scaling your business, you have to have a good fit-for-purpose management system. Then you have to have leadership that understands how to execute, and then on top of that, the culture starts developing, is what we believe. And the way the culture develops is through what we call feedback mechanisms. I'm an electrical engineer, so feedback, just kind of jumps into my head.
I'm a mechanical. We don't care about feedback.
Right. You like feedback, right? So we call it feedback, but it's really getting out into the space, the management by walking around. They'll go observe maintenance and see how the maintenance is getting done, walk through the plant, talk to the technicians. When something goes wrong, or even if it goes right, sit down and discuss, what did we do right this time? What did we do wrong? How can we improve? Is the procedure, does it work? Is it outdated? Did the procedure not get updated with the management of change process? All these things are tied together. And so that model is how what we believe the high reliability organization can achieve extraordinary, performance and safety in the midst of a very high-risk, high-consequence environment like a nuclear submarine. Mm-hmm. We work with a lot of oil and gas companies, offshore, Gulf of Mexico, in refineries. So that's our focus.
good friend of mine, Ron Moore, I don't know if you know Ron, is retired, but he has, and he's written about 7 books, and he's passionate about the connection between safety and reliability. You just mentioned that in terms of if you want to be a safe organization, be a reliable one. If you want to be a reliable organization, you'll be a safe one, and putting the two together. So tell me a little bit about the philosophy of how high reliability as a culture impacts that.
Well, what we believe and what we've seen, through our time in the nuclear Navy and then working with our clients is if you establish the culture around 5 certain things that we believe in, which is knowledge for the operator and a learning organization knowledge. So really embracing when things go wrong or when they go right, figuring out what made that tick. So that knowledge and learning organization. And then formalities, very important, especially when you're doing something that's high risk, like starting up a nuclear reactor. You want to have a formal procedure, right? I mean, I've started hundreds of nuclear reactors.
I was going to say,
I'm not going to wing it.
And you're on the ship.
I'm on that submarine. I want
right.
it to go right. So I'm going to follow that procedure. But I also have to have a questioning attitude. What if the procedure's wrong because the initial conditions have changed? What if the equipment got changed out and they didn't update the procedure? All kinds of things can always go wrong in a complex system. So your mind has to be engaged and say, here's what I expect to happen when I open this valve. If it doesn't happen as I expected, the system doesn't respond the way I expect, I have to challenge that and maybe pause, investigate, ask some questions. So it's that type of reliability where we're thinking, we're engaged, we have a questioning attitude, we're not afraid to speak up to our boss. Bosses can be wrong. I don't know if anybody tells everybody else this, but when I was captain of the submarine, I was very fallible. I could make mistakes. If the team didn't back me up when I made a mistake, then we were in deep trouble because I was always going to make mistakes. Every day I make mistakes. So you have to build that environment. It can't be chaos. It can't be anarchy, right? The captain of the ship still has to be the captain of the ship, and I'm going to be responsible. But at the same time, I want the team backing me up, right? So it's that type of culture. And so that's what we believe in. Build that culture, and then the systems will be operated properly. They'll be operated safely through process safety. And honestly, occupational safety is kind of, it's a natural outspring of a high reliability organization because people are engaged with their minds, they're thinking, they know the procedures, they know the systems, and even when something breaks and starts to go wrong, they catch it early and they resolve the issue safely, and occupational safety almost becomes an afterthought because of the way we do business safely, right?
It's interesting because to really do occupational safety, you really do have to have it behaviorally. And people have to behave a certain way. And it's not just a matter of rote, I do A, B, C. Because when you have a breakdown, it's no longer A, B, C, D. Now you got to figure out as a team. One of the other things I assume in the culture you talk about has got to be the idea of teamwork. I was once with a company called Team Resources years and years ago, and we believed that teams would power organizations long before people talked about teams. But talk about the idea of collaboration, teamwork in a high reliability organization.
Yeah, I mean, teamwork's essential in any organization, right? And especially in one where there's complexities. So, on board a submarine, there's very direct roles of roles and responsibilities and ways to communicate. And it really streamlines the ability to work together as a team because we know each other. It's almost, a lot of people don't like sports analogies, but I like them. Let's say if you're in a football team and you don't know the playbook, well, you can't be a good team member. As happy as you are and as much of a go-getter you are, if you don't know the play, you don't know where you're supposed to be. You don't know where anybody else is supposed to be. So it kind of goes back to that it's a holistic thing. If you have a good management system that you can execute, you have good leadership, and you have a good culture with questioning attitude, engaged leadership, you're going to have that teamwork. It's going to be natural. I can trust that you have the same beliefs and behaviors that I expect. You do things the way I expect, and not in a, diversity is great, diversity of thought, but I don't want diversity of thought when I'm starting a nuclear reactor, right? I want the diversity of thought when we're designing it on paper, but I don't want it when I want to start up a reactor in Pearl Harbor next to Honolulu with enough uranium on board to kill every man, woman, child in the state of Hawaii, right? That's not the place I want creativity. I want, so everybody has to have that on the same page. This is our playbook. And if we have to stop and take a time out and huddle and figure out what's going on, then we do it. So I think teamwork is, again, another kind of what I think is it comes out of a high reliability organization through the leadership and culture.
I use the analogy, you want your creative director to be creative, and you want your CFO to not be creative.
Exactly.
I mean, because there's certain accounting rules you follow.
Yes.
Our industry, and when I say our industry, I'm talking about globally, industry is changing rapidly because of IoT, manufacturing 4.0, you name all the things. Yeah. What research has told us, very few of them work. Yeah. Because it's, a top-down approach come in. Digitalization of the utility industry is going through dramatic change right now. But talk about what you see in the landscape, because you must see a lot of different organizations, or your team sees a lot of different organizations. What are some of the challenges that people have to implement a high reliability organization or system?
Yeah. Well, so we always focus on the human-machine interface. Right. No matter how complex we get with our AI and everything, I was on submarines with analog equipment. I was the chief engineer when we put the first digital, basically a microprocessor, 8088 processor, on a nuclear submarine. And the hardest part of that was not the technology. It was the human interfacing with new technology.
Same problem we're having today.
Exactly. So that's where companies need to focus on the human, I call it human machine interface, but the human technology interface, because whether that moves up or down the process chain, there's still that interface. And if you don't get that right, the technology won't lead to the prosperity and the improvements and proficiency and productivity that you want. You're just moving the problem. Yeah. Right. That's how.
And one of the things that is changing, we have of course supply chain issues right now as we speak. We also have labor supply chain issues. It's hard to get the kind of people that are operating those machines that are doing that in there. So the idea of the interface is critically important, because you can't just plug and play. Right. It's not just that human goes in and does that there. So it's an interesting phenomena that's happening in the industry right now. When you look at, if you were to criticize C-level decision making as it comes to, because you have to work at the C-level and they say, Bob, go make us a high reliability organization. Not anyone specific, okay, but what is the big criticism and what can they do better about helping what you do happen?
Well, first I would say, and I use this a lot, is get eyes on target. Get out of the C-suite, go out to the field and dwell in the field.
Oh no, do I have to?
Yes, and not in the suit, put on the coveralls, spend some time, carve it out of it's so important. We used to have 4-star admirals. Admiral Kirk Donald was the head of naval reactors. He was in charge of all nuclear submarines and surface ships. But he would come down and visit, just pop in on my submarine. When I was captain, he came down and he wanted to walk through the engine room and see how things are going. Now, he was putting eyes on target. He was putting eyes on me. He was putting eyes on my team, and he was putting eyes on anything he could spot that didn't belong. And he'd get on his knees and look underneath the high-pressure air compressor for rust and dirt, and I'd be like, this 4-star admiral is on his knees looking for rust in my engine room. What is that? That's an example for me to understand what his values were, what was important to him, how to lead people. So I think, first of all, to all my C-suite friends, get out of the C-suite, get out to the field, build some confidence and trust with your people, get the rapport that you're not getting because it's being filtered. Yeah. You have to have those conduits of communication to understand what the real challenges are. Okay. And then, listen, and then build your business case around, addressing those issues, and not all of them can be solved, right? You can't listen to every single complaint in the field, but at the same time, if you don't know what the issues are, you can't address any of them. Yeah. So understand the problem set completely. Don't look at it from just a number standpoint. Get in the field, get in the plant, wherever you have to go, understand the work that's being done, and then build your team around solving, optimizing that problem set, which is a complex problem set. No
Excellent. Doubt. Love what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for
Thank
joining
you.
us here.
Glad to have you.
Power Test 2023.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Thank you.